Thank you so much for giving me this privilege to share, to be on this podium. Now, we'll be having a special session. And this session is a follow-up to the very wonderful presentation made by Dr. Jumade. I think sometimes you don't appreciate technical. I think Dr. Jumade deserves a round of applause, even in absentia. He did very well. He did very well. I think we should give him a round of applause. So it's a follow-up to that topic, fire suppression system, emerging technologies and best practices for effective fire suppression in buildings. But this particular one, we are just trying to coin something out of this particular presentation, and we'll be having some subject matter experts who are going to come to this podium, and we're going to be having a very robust discussion. Of course, the title, what we'll be talking about is fire prevention across buildings in Lagos State, a multidisciplinary approach for fire prevention. You'd agree with me that fire suppression technologies are very good because it helps for early detection, of course, maximum control, and of course, to extinguish fire at the early stage, to ensure that lives are protected, lives are saved, properties are protected, and by extension, business continuity, and then overall reduce to the barest minimum environmental damage. However, the fire suppression technology is not just sufficient. We'll be looking at our discussants and our panelists. We'll be looking at a multidisciplinary approach. Of course, we'll be looking at the importance of, our building codes, adherence to our codes, in putting up, our architectural designs. We'll be looking at early warning. We'll be looking at education, public advocacy, and then emergency preparedness, amongst others. When you put all these things together, then you, of course, will be talking about a holistic approach. So we're going to be having some discussion. We're going to come in right now in no particular order. I'm just going to talk about them, and then as they make their way, please encourage them with a rounding applause, please. First, in no particular order, I'll be calling on Chioma Oparadike. She is an accomplished composite fire safety consultant and a safety advocate. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Cabana Fire Limited, a fire safety company based in Lagos, focused on helping homes and business build practical, reliable, and compliant fire system. Please give her a round of applause. You can see she's very beautiful and she's in the business of fire safety. Sit down. Secondly, I will be inviting the man that is known as agility. There's ability in agility. Engineer Dr. Martins Agbili, also known as Agility, is a renowned engineer, a fire safety expert, disaster risk management specialist, and of course, public administrator with about 30 years experience in firefighting. He's currently the permanent secretary of Anambra State Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, and an erudite professor. He's a doctor in disaster risk management. Please give him a round of applause. Also, let us also make welcome Engineer Quintus Gerard Azogu. He will be representing Dr. Lehman. Engineer Quintus is a highly accomplished Nigerian fire safety professional engineer and an administrator. He currently serves as Director of Technical Services at Assetbo Limited, an independent Nigerian firm specializing in maintenance, asset integrity, and fire protection services. Please give him a round of applause. Last and not the least is the man that I refer to as Professor of Safety, Dr. Dapo Omolade. Is a globally respected health safety and environment consultant. He's an environment sustainability expert, an HSC guru with over 30 years of experience driving organizational excellence, leadership development, and workplace safety transformation. Please give him a round of applause. So you can see that organizers of this conference painstakingly chose these very amiable discussants, panelists. So I'm also going to sit down. Part of emergency preparedness is to ensure you also get yourself ready. So our highly distinguished and esteemed panelists, we will be talking about diverse areas of fire prevention, and we'll be looking at cross-cutting approaches. And it's a follow-up to the lecture that we just had. Now, I'm going to start with agility. The first question I'm going to ask is this. Now, despite several advances in fire suppression technology, why do we still have fire incidents in buildings across the states? Engine agility.
Thank you very much. This is another opportunity to discuss fire safety. I say first of all, the public doesn't fancy fire safety anywhere. We don't remember that there's need for us to promote this of fire safety. And that is why, even in our different buildings, you find out that a lot, even those who are even the structures, the buildings, they don't remember to equally to install this fire safety equipment. That is the major problem. And because of that, there's always the problem of fire incidents which emerge from the surge, and probably some of them where they don't install the fire extinguishers, the sprinkler system, and other things. You find out that once there is fire outbreak, there's nothing you can use to approach it. And that will equally cause major harm in our structures, in our buildings. And because people doesn't value these things, the implementations becomes a problem. But we can restore this through proper inspections, annual inspections in all our buildings at any given time. Just like when the first presentation was made, it said there's need for this, and before you enter into any building, there is always need for firefighters or fire safety inspections to inspect that place and certify it before one can be able to go in there and occupy the building. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, can you please put a post on that? What's your take-home about what Mr. Agility has said? What's your own take-home? Why do you think that why government and, of course, institutions, private sector, they have actually invested colossal amounts on fire suppression technology? Why do we still have incessant fire outbreaks in markets and across various buildings in Lagos? Taking into cognizance the fire outbreak that occurred at the GNI, the recent fire outbreak that occurred in a 25-story building within the shores of Lagos, the GNI building.
Thank you so much, distinguished moderator. And I think there are different reasons why fire, even though people have installed the right fire safety systems, and I'll use the word installed very lightly, that fire incidents still occur. One of them, oftentimes, is a lack of maintenance. So oftentimes we see people have what they are expected to have, but nothing happens after that. So there's no maintenance culture, the equipment are not properly maintained. Sometimes they are not even properly installed. In fact, I've been to quite a few buildings recently where they still have a covering on their smoke detectors. I don't know if any other person has seen something like that. So sometimes you might have the systems installed, but they are not either activated or they are not properly maintained. And then secondly, one of the issues we have is a lack of awareness and education, public education. So a lot of times people think, oh, it's fire extinguisher now, or is this, or is that, but do they actually know how it works? Now, the particular building that you're referring to, if I remember correctly, is the one in Lagos Island. So from the resources and information that we have on that particular fire incident, which was really such a terrible one, is that the building itself did not have many of this fire safety equipment. And one major one is lack of detection system. So by the time they found out what had happened, it had already gone quite far. So it comes to different factors. So lack of maintenance, sometimes lack of even having the right safety equipment in there, and of course, a lack of awareness. People do not have enough information to do the right thing. Thank you.
So, Dr. Dapo, your take home about that. This is very, very important because we see that despite the fact that we see people talking about technology, talk about the detection technology, suppression technology, yet we are still having fire breaks around. So, and we want this holistic, approach. So, Dr. Dapo, what do you think? What's your opinion about this issue?
All right. Good afternoon, guests and participants, and thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. This is a very important question you have asked, and I'm happy we are discussing this at a larger forum, especially with the fire service and all the good jobs that they have been doing, especially in Lagos State for a long time. I think what is very key for me here, and I'll be resting on what Dr. Jumade said, is when we have infrastructure as beautiful as this, and we have technology that we have deployed, and we do not have the requisite knowledge and skills to operate it, then it becomes a disaster. Public education when it comes to fire in Nigeria is something that I think we all have to look at in a second way. I was looking at the report from Fire Service, Lagos State, and the call-outs and all the things that they do. And when you look at the call-out, the first thing I'm asking myself as a safety person is, where does the performance and data of fire service lie? Is it in the proactive or in the reactive? Because call-out and fires and all of that, all of those things are reactive. We're only fighting. What we need, because in simple safety, the leading indicators are better, far more preventative than the lagging. Firefighting is a lagging indicator. We are only going out when something has happened. What are we doing to prevent the fire? I know the Lagos State does a lot of inspection. I see the number of certificates that have been issued. But the fact is, I'm hoping that very soon I will have on this data number of Lagosians trained on fire prevention in schools, in the workplaces. Those data need to tell us some things as to what is happening. Because if we don't have ourselves being trained, then there's a problem. I was talking to a small child recently on my trip. And I posed a simple question just to get his brain, because he said something. He said, oh, I'm going to go to a place now to start working as holiday work. I said, what are you going to be doing there? He said, I'm going to be a fire marshal. And that struck me. This is a 16-year-old. He's going to be a fire marshal, so I have to probe further. I said, okay, so what are you going to be doing as a fire marshal? So I started interrogating. And what this 16-year-old taught me in fire service, in fire prevention, I was like, have you done any course, Some of us have done so many courses, but have you done any course? What have you done? He said, right from mid-level or whatever it is, I'm trained on fire. Oh, uncle, I know what to do when there's smoke here. I can crawl out. If anything, he has answers to everything about fire prevention. If I throw the same question to us, even in this audience, some of us may struggle to answer it. Because we are not trained. We do not have awareness that, I'm not saying we are not doing it, but the numbers are not enough to prevent the fires. I think we need to do more. And this is not just on fire service alone, but everyone. because fire is a reality for everybody. In your home, if fire starts now, what are you going to do? If you don't know it, somebody has not trained you. And I rest my case by saying, until you know what to do, you can't do anything when fire starts. Because even when you know what to do, you are still going to panic when the fire starts. So you must know what to do in order for us to prevent fire. Thank you very much.
I think these panelists deserve a round of applause. And I expect those of us who are in the audience to take notes. It's really very important. Our director, Mr. Gerald, what's your take home with respect to this particular challenge?
Well, thank you very much. I listened to the speech made by the governor of the state, and one thing that brightened my heart was that we have a brighter future for policies, fire policies. When those who are supposed to provide policies come out to make such statements, you can't but say, thank you, we are headed in the right direction. I also listened to the member of the House of Reps who just spoke now. They make laws. So we need to have sound laws and policies. On these policies, we are going to build a framework on how to carry out firefighting. And then I also listened to consensus, the speeches made says that much of the firefighting is done at the level of preventing it. You see, in those days, you find out that firefighters react to a fire. But what the modern approach now is for us to prevent it before it starts. And prevention starts with equipping those who are going to organize training for the public, equipping them with the right knowledge and skill. I'm talking about the firefighters. How many of the firefighters go for training annually? It's a continuous thing that they have to be trained, prepared for what is ahead. And prevention is just apart from going to let people know what they are supposed to do when they find themselves in a fire situation, you also have to have the firemen having input in buildings, right from the design stage through construction and post-construction stages, because buildings are not safe if they don't have fire safety provisions. There's what we call passive features in buildings. We also have what we call active fire protection systems. There are two levels. The passive things will prevent fire from developing to a bad state if you don't have it there, like the kind of paint you use here that will not allow smoke to be generated if there's a fire outbreak. These are passive features. The kind of rod that the structural engineer decides to put in a building so that it can stand a test of time if there's a fire outbreak. The fire resistance of materials, these are all preventive measures that you have in buildings. And you have to discover that Lagos is not just like an ordinary state. Lagos, take for instance the flood we just had recently that hit Lagos. We cannot run away from it because naturally Lagos is sitting on a low land, just like Accra in Ghana. So you can't stop these things from happening, but we can put in place measures that will minimize the impact when they do happen. So it is important also, that is where enforcement and regulation comes in. These are prevention. You are preventing disasters. And good thing, you see, the fire service from the National Disaster Plan has responsibility for fighting fires, that the lead agencies in firefighting and flood control. So we need proper code enforcement. We need training of the firefighters. We need to talk to people through formal fire awareness campaign and through formal education. Let me stop there so that we can talk some other things about it.
I think they deserve a round of applause. Now, it is believed that for any disaster, any fire disaster to happen, there must be an interaction between hazard, risk, and vulnerable conditions before any fire disaster would happen. There are underlying risk, there are visible, sometimes not visible hazards, and then people are either exposed or vulnerable. Now, I'm going to start with Dr. Dapo. What is the place of fire safety audits in nipping these specific indicators that we have talked about? Hazards, risk, vulnerable condition, and sometimes exposure in fire prevention and management.
All right, thank you very much. This question is straightforward. And it's a build-up to what has just been described now by the speaker. Audits is a validation exercise. And what are you validating? You're only validating a standard or a guideline that has been provided. If we have policies, if we have legal frameworks, if we have all the standards, like Dr. Jumadi talked about the NFPA standards and the rest, in place, then it only gives us a benchmark on what we are going to measure ourselves against. Now, audits help you to check if you are at par with those standards, you are below those standards, or even you are above, because there are times in organizations you can be audited and they find out that you even do much more than the guidelines say you should do. An example of that is you can set up your own policy to actually ride far above legal standards. I always mention it. The organizations that understand safety, sometimes they do not rest on legal, because legal compliance is not what sustains the organization. Conformance is much better because that's your own standard. So when you set up a standard for yourself that is far above the legal, then you are able to now measure yourself to say, how are we doing here? Or you have sector benchmarking. What's happening in my own business? Oh, this is the standard that is happening in my own sector. I need to equal that standard. That's exactly what fire audit is supposed to do for us. There are things that must be done in order to meet up with the requirement of fire safety. From infrastructure to components, equipment, personnel, training, materials, PPE. There are so many things that can be there. You can have the fire sprinkler system in place, but you are not inspecting it for 1 year. And some of us have heard the story of how, I heard it, I'm not sure I saw it, how a fire truck got into a place to fight fire and there was nothing inside the tank, or the pump refused to start. It means it has not been audited. There's no frequency of audits. There's nobody validating this, that this is right. We can't be sufficient just setting up fire systems. Audit helps us to make sure it is usable when we are ready to use it. The audit helps us to prepare. It's actually a preparedness for us to fight fire or to even prevent fire in our workplace. I round up by saying, some time ago we're doing a fire inspection and audit of a facility, and they have very beautiful smoke detectors. I've not seen that type before, because Nigeria, a lot of us use battery powered. So this is not just battery powered, it also is simulated between battery and electric. Very beautiful, but something shocked us that they were just joking. We have gone to the restaurant and we're coming back through the lobby. And it was one of the bosses that were auditing that wanted to prove to us that it was working. And he just told one of the guys, oh, check this if this is working. And we all waited. And lo and behold, that fire alarm was not working at that point in time. And they checked the record. We have inspected all of this. Do you know what happened? The audit company that came to do it did a sampling rather than doing a complete audit of all this. This is what happens. So audit helps you to really convince yourself that you are ready. In Yoruba land, they will tell you that if you are sure that the mercy of your father is very strong, you use it to hit yourself. That's what audit helps you to do. it gives you a chance to test that everything you have in place can work as and when needed. So we cannot discount that in our process for fire safety. Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause. Chairman, now there is this slogan: if you plan to fail, you have failed to plan. And that applies to every sphere of life. Now, in the context of fire safety and management, what is the importance of contingency plan for fire preparedness, for preparedness and response to fire emergencies? What is the place of contingency plan? Now, he was talking about something. Sometimes we have a lot of people who have smoke detectors. Sometimes you have your sprinkler systems. Sometimes those contingencies are not tested, which are part of the overall plan. So where is the place of most of this contingency plan for us to improve our overall preparedness, response, and then recovery from fire incident? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So there's this joke that says that fire does not send and does not inform me before it comes. It's a guest that's an unexpected guest. And that's the reality, because you never know when it will happen. You never know. Sometimes there are circumstances that ignite or cause a fire incident to happen. So that's why people must always be prepared. Now, when it comes to contingency planning, there's so many aspects to it, but one of the key things I believe that people always have to consider, especially is evacuation. Now, why I say evacuation is because when you look at the way a lot of our buildings are constructed, many times there's either just one way out or one way in. And many times people are not thinking about what will happen if an emergency occurs. Now, the other day I was just discussing with someone who owns a law firm, and he mentioned that, do you know, we only have one way out of this office. So if anything were to happen, we will not know what to do, because if that door is obstructed, that is it. So a lot of people do not consider these things until something happens. And at that point, oftentimes it's too late. We recall the event, the fire outbreak last year. One of the ones, I think a financial services firm. And that issue, evacuation, became a problem because there was no way for a lot of those people to evacuate properly from that building. So it's one of the key critical things I believe needs to be considered in any planning for any business, for any public building or commercial building, and of course, even residential, because thinking about not just, okay, what do we do? Do we have the firefighting arsenal? You also have to think about, do we have a safe way to leave the space or to evacuate if there's an issue? Thank you.
I think this is what we call bold, beautiful, and brilliant. Give her a round of applause. Agility. Now, we see that sometimes people have this misconception that firefighting is just the responsibility of the firefighter, rather than a multi-disciplinary approach. Don't you think that there must be a paradigm shift? And what is your own conception and, of course, your view with respect to this? Is fire service, firefighting or fire safety is just the responsibility of the Lagos State Fire Service and the first responders? Don't you think that it is a multidisciplinary? And if you believe it, why do you think that? I mean, we want the audience, to just want you to talk to the audience and then enrich us with your wealth of experience as a practitioner.
Thank you very much. Once more, you see, the issue of fire have been there before firefighters. So what does it mean? That some people have been treating or fighting fire or even preventing fire before the era of firefighters. Who are these people who have been doing these things? They were not firefighters. It was later that we have the involvement of firefighters, and maybe fire service issue came up. We start to get people together to form and give them a name, firefighters. So what it means is that people have been doing this job in one way or the other. And again, it's never the responsibility of firefighters alone to fight fire or prevent fire, or even to tackle the issue of fire safety management. Every hand must be on deck. It's the responsibility of everybody anywhere. I will always tell people, in the terms of fire outbreak, that the man at the spot is even more useful than the firefighters who may be far away coming to the fire scene. So what it entails is that anybody at any time, at any moment, should learn and know how to fight fire. That means undergo training on your own. You will not tell me that if fire starts inside your house and you're saying that it's going to destroy things, then you will not even make any effort to stop the fire, or even make some arrangement to prevent the fire from occurring in the first instance before the arrival of what? The firefighters. If we continue to wait for firefighters to come, of course, fire does not wait for anybody. It's going to destroy a lot of things even before the arrival. What firefighters are coming is to stop the fire from wherever they are going to meet it. By then, it must have destroyed things, and they will start from somewhere to control and fight the fire. So what we are saying is people should learn that this job, firefighting or fire prevention or fire safety management, is never a thing we leave for government alone. That equally go down to philanthropists in any state, anywhere. It's not just going to do some other things to people in different organizations. Equally remember that firefighters need some equipment equally to fight this fire. I think I overheard during I think when the deputy governor was saying something, I think he mentioned about, is it an individual that assisted in one of the maybe fire stations? I think I overheard something like that. Those are the kind of things we want to hear. That people are equally extending their tentacles in supporting fire service and supporting the government to do what everybody is going to cherish. So firefighting is not just the responsibility of firefighters alone, because when people hear about fire, the next thing they call fire service. Fire service must be there. No, it's just like talking about security. You talk about maybe police will always be anywhere. Why do we have vigilante? It's still the same thing. They will be doing something before the arrival of what? Police. And that's the essence of, I think I know why they equally created the fire marshal. Where you normally have something like that, it's road safety, where they have the marshals. What are they doing? Maybe when there is traffic somewhere, they start to control. Do the work of what? Road safety. The same thing, the fire marshals do the same thing. Maybe in our different localities, in our different communities, once there's fire outbreak, they will assist to do it, or even help to create access for firefighters when they will be moving into the community to fight the fire. Thank you.
I expected more of that applaud. Thank you so much. Now you cannot begin to see that indeed the Lagos State government, through the instrumentality of the Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations, and by extension, the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service has done a lot in terms of putting in place structures such as the establishment of fire marshal, and want to encourage all and sundry to ensure that they key into this very laudable initiative. And on Mr. Gerald, this question is going to go for you before I have just your general conclusion in 1 minute, because I can see the compere is already on the podium and is telling us that our time is about, to be spent. Now, Mr. Gerald, you have this wealth of experience from both the public sector and the private sector, okay? Now, do you think that the existing fire safety standards and regulation, do you think they are adequate? Or are you indifferent about that? Or do you think that rather than maybe these things, okay, they are there or they are not there, then the challenge we have, the bigger challenge is enforcement of fire safety? What is your take home about this?
Well, thank you. I would say, like I started by giving kudos to Lagos State government because I was a secretary of a ministerial committee that looked into the preparedness of the fire services in Nigeria. We went around the entire country, traveled out of Nigeria, visited a couple of countries, developed countries, and we found out that we were not prepared for a major disaster. As at then, that was 2012. When we came to Lagos, Lagos had about 400 personnel. I think about 12 fire stations. That's between 2012 and 2029. You are having about 29 fire stations, if I heard the speakers correctly. You're having about 1,200 personnel. That's twice as much. You are having government interest in the activities of the fire service. It's something that is cheering for a firefighter like me. But then, see, like I said, Lagos is not just an ordinary state. Lagos is quite different. The challenges are so enormous. It is a small geographical space, but because it is sitting on a lowland, because you have a high population, because you have serious industrial activities, there's need for us to, like Oliver Twist, to ask for more for the firefighters, to ask for more for things that will build the resilience of the state, because there's so much risk in Lagos State, though the government has tried so much until this time around. We need to make sure that, for instance, look at what happened in the flooding we just had recently. There are natural barriers that may have been compromised by way of development. So I begin to wonder whether there was an environmental impact carried out, because in Abuja we had a similar situation. Floodplains were compromised and it resulted in flooding. So there is need for us to emphasize on these areas. Government has to do something about ensuring that the right thing is done at the right time. And then I also think that the fire service has to do more by a kind of decentralization. So that, because it is not easy for us, the firemen, to respond to a scene because of the traffic situation. And you find out that the practice of using tankers to move water is not the best, but that's the best option for now. So it is important that we do a kind of decentralization and then emphasize on public awareness, get the fire marshals, very welcome idea, spread them across, but it's gradually we are going to get there.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause. And then, by extension, a round of applause to the Lagos State government. We have 25 fire stations, 4 more on board, and I think that Lagos State has decentralized firefighting, and of course, we need to continue to appreciate what our own Mr. Governor is doing. Now, on a final note, I want you to address our audience and then our larger public. One message, in just 1 minute, one message, with respect to this team, with respect to this particular panel discussion. Just 1 minute. Tell our audience something and then tell the public something in just 1 minute. Your final message.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think this would be my wish. And I want to put that wish. I know there are government legislative powers here and also the Chief Fire Director for Lagos State. I'm hoping that very soon fire safety training will become a mandatory curriculum in our schools. I went through schools in Nigeria from nursery, primary, secondary, university. I don't know if anybody here was trained on fire, but I was not trained. I didn't get any training till I finished my university. And I don't know if it has changed, but if we still have that lacuna in the industry, the system, then we are still going to be far away from preventing fire. So the legislation, please, let's push this until it becomes a curriculum. Just as we are pushing safety as a curriculum, fire should also be part of the curriculum.
Thank you.
Up to the primary school minimum. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Agility.
Well, a very short one. I will always say fire kills, but you can prevent it. And always remember, the time of call will determine the time of response. So it's better you work closely with firefighters so as to assist you the more. Thank you.
Beautiful chairman, okay.
Okay, thank you so much, distinguished moderator. So for me, one thing I want us to remember is that fire safety is a continuous and collective responsibility. It matters to every single one of us. We have a role to play. And so with that, I'm going to say just one thing to the Lagos Fire and Rescue Service and then to all of us in the room. So to the Lagos Fire and Rescue Service, first of all, I commend you on the new law. It's a welcome, welcome addition. Please clap for them. Yeah, thank you very much. But it's still just the beginning, ma'am. One thing I think we also need to do is to provide regulations, more detailed regulations. The last speaker mentioned something which I think is critical. It's about the materials that are used for buildings in today's Nigeria, especially in Lagos. We are seeing a move to more synthetic materials, and there is no regulation about this. So what we see is that interior decorators, architects, all those people are building things that have very high combustible components. And that is going to lead to issues that we have not fully considered. So we'll actually advocate that you have more regulations about specific areas. And also around solar and inverter systems. We are seeing a rise in adoption of those processes in offices around Lagos and Nigeria. And we need regulations to also to provide more regulations around that. That's it. And then to my fellow members and everybody here, one thing I would call us to do is, please, we can be the change. It has to start with us. Some of us here are not modeling what we are saying, but we have to do that. Because at the end of the day, this change that we want to see in Lagos and in Nigeria starts with each one of us. Let us model fire safety, and then it becomes easier for the rest of Nigeria and Lagos to do so. Thank you.
And Mr. Gerard, on the final note.
Well, I'll say thank you to Lagos State government. I'm happy as a firefighter. What you are doing appeals to me. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Don't stop because there are new and emerging trends in firefighting, in risk. So we just have to continue with doing what we are doing. For the firefighters, continue to show your bravery. Make do with what you have. At some point, nobody gets it all. I traveled, the firefighting business exposed me to a lot of countries. California sits on a hotbed when it comes to disaster. They are advanced, but they keep having disasters every day. Lagos sits on a lowland. The population is very high. You are going to have threats from time to time, but show your bravery. Government will always support you. They are showing their support.
Thank you.
So individuals, I say firefighting is everybody's business. No matter what you do, take advantage of the fire service, get ideas from them and know what to do when you find yourself in certain situation. And to everybody, I say thank you for listening.
What do we do? How do we appreciate these people? Let's give them a round of applause. And let me also tell Madam Chairman that Lagos is always at the top. We have started the process of domesticating the National Building Code as part of that committee. And of course, it is multi-sectoral, brings in the private sector and all major actors and cuts across everything you have said. Thank you, and God bless all of us.
A round of applause for our panelists. Okay, please. Paparazzis, please come. The Controller General wants to take a picture with the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Charles de Gaulle, the French statesman, that said, Politics is too important. Politics is too important to be left to politicians. Firefighting is too important to be left to firefighters. And that's why I want us to do this encore. I will say fire safety. Okay. The Commissioner and Engineer Jumade to joining them. When I say fire safety, you say it begins with me. When I say it begins with me, you will say fire safety. Fire safety. We are coming up. Fire safety. Fire safety. It begins with me. It begins with me. Let's try it for the last time. Fire safety. It begins with me. There is so much I've learned today, but that is what I am taking home. Ladies and gentlemen, we are already on the home drive. We just have one more item and we are off. And we call it a day. And to take that anthem just for 20 minutes or thereabout, I would like to invite Mr. Francis Samson Unwoka. Is going to be taking us on fire risk assessment and management, identifying hazards as well as evaluating risks and implementing controls. This is a very, very long topic because risk assessment alone is about 10 minutes. So 20 minutes for our last facilitator for the day. 20 minutes, sir. Can we please put our hands together for Mr. Francis Samson as he comes forward? Unkoka. I thought I saw W instead of K. You're welcome, sir. You have 20 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. It's always very difficult when you are the last speaker, and also when you are. I'm not a fire expert, but I'm a disaster expert. So it's also very difficult when you speak after very distinguished fire expert that have spoken here. So my presentation, as it is appearing here, is building resilience and mainly focusing on identifying hazard, evaluating risk, and implementing control. So if we go to the next slide, you're going to see that the fire incident in Nigeria is growing. So there is a growing threat of fire, and there is also a rising cost for fire. And when you look at across the years, from maybe 2013 going up to now, you see that the trend has been going up and up. We appreciate the effort that the fire services, fire rescue teams are doing to prevent disasters, to prevent impacts and all that. But still, as the development is growing, the economic losses are also growing, the damages are also growing, and we have a lot of problems. So you can see that as we are going across the years, the number of people affected is increasing, the casualties affected also is increasing, and the properties and assets damaged and destroyed, it's also increasing. Can you go to the next slide, please? Why is it important? Why is it important? Why is it important to consider this issue? One is we know in Africa, we know in Nigeria, that urbanization is accelerating. So you can see the growth of cities or urban areas is increasing. It is increasing vertically, but also horizontally. The commercial hubs, market centers, industrial facilities, warehouse, offices are all expanding. We are also seeing that, however, risk is growing alongside development. So as urbanization is increasing, we also see that the risk is also increasing. And now, because of that, the cost of major fire incidents, we see there's a loss of lives, loss of livelihoods, environmental damages, we see damages to infrastructure, we see business interruption and all that. If we prevent today, we are going to save lives. If we prevent today, we are going to protect assets, we sustain businesses, and we are going to strengthen communities. So prevention costs less than response. Invest in fire safety is important. Investing in resilience is important than response and reaction. Can you go to the next slide, please? So can we understand the concept of resilience? Resilience is the ability for individuals, for businesses, communities, and institutions to, one, and anticipate hazard. So we need to understand where is the hazard. Two, withstand the shock. Now we need to know that when the hazard has occurred, then the shock should be withstand. That's resilience. Respond effectively. If a hazard has occurred and a shock has occurred, then the resilience is about responding effectively, but also to recover quickly and adapt and become stronger. Resilience is not about responding to disasters. It begins long before a crisis has occurred. So when we are looking at the concept of resilience, it's a question of anticipation, withstanding the shock, responding effectively, recovering quickly, and adapting and become very, very strong. We go to the next slide. So resilience framework, mainly if you understand what I said, it is in 3 areas. The first area is understanding hazard. The second area is evaluating the risk. And the last area is implementing control. And this is exactly what we are talking about today. This simple framework forms the foundation of effective fire safety management. Can you go to the next slide? So can we go to the first point on the framework of the resilient, which is identifying the hazard. So a lot of people here have already presented and have spoken to all the fire hazard. The next 3 days we're going to be discussing that. But fire hazard arise from multiple sources. Now we need to understand where is the fire hazard arising from, because that's the whole point of understanding the fire hazard. First is the physical hazard. So we have talked about electrical systems, overloading, circuits, poor wiring. The second area where the hazard comes from, fire hazard comes from, is operation issues, use of unsafe storage practices, blockage of emergency exit, human factors, unsafe behavior, environmental factors, extreme heat, poor ventilation, and all that. You cannot manage risk that you have not identified. So when you're talking about fire, the first thing is to understand and identify it. Once you identify it, then you can be able to manage that risk. Can we go to the next slide? If you go to if you consider the recent fire systems, our firefighters can tell us here, can confirm with this, but the recent fire incidents that we have experienced in cities or all over, you're going to see that usually is electrical fault, poor compliance to building codes, lack of fire detection system, inadequate maintenance, and limited emergency preparedness. Most incidents are not caused by a single failure, but a multiple risk accumulated over time. So if you look at our buildings, our behaviors, what we are doing, we are not able to do the right things in terms of the fire management. Can we go to the next slide? Now, if you look at that, what we are saying is, one, we need to identify where the hazard is coming from. Then we need to understand. We need to evaluate the risks. Now, the risk is a function of likelihood and consequences. So the question is, we need to understand how likely fire is going to cause to occur. Then we need to understand what is the impact. If fire occurs like here, what is the impact? Then we need to understand who is affected and what assets are at risk. Why risk assessment matters? Risk assessment allows decision making to prioritize resource where they are needed most. Can we go to the next slide, please? If you go across in all our presentation, areas where we see there is high risk, it's market and commercial centers, high-rise buildings, industrial facilities, fuel and chemical storage areas, hospitals, and all that. This location often combined high occupancy and with significant economic values. Next slide, please. Now, if we identify the hazard, then we did the risk analysis, we have to implement control. Now, when you're looking at fire control, it's a function of several factors, but here I've chosen three areas. One is engineering control, two is administrative control, three is emergency preparedness. We need to combine all this. So fire control reduces the likelihood and impact of fire-related incident, protecting people, assets, and operations. So we need to look at what are the engineering control, what are the administrative control, do we have fire safety policies? Like here, when we are starting our workshop today, we had someone explaining to us how fire management is done here. So those are the things we need to think about. Emergency preparedness, do we have an evacuation plan? If a fire erupts today, where are we going to go? That is the issues we need to think about. Can you go to the next slide? We need to be smarter. Nowadays, we need to look at, we need to see the possibility of using technology. Technology is going to help us to detect fire faster, to analyze the risk quickly, to improve decision making, and more effectively emergency response. Go to the next slide, please. Now, if you're talking about fire management, building resilience is important when you build an institutional resilience. Stronger institutions are foundation of effective fire risk management. That's why Lagos is one of the best examples because of the institutional arrangement. Now, when we are talking about institutional resilience, it's about effective regulation. Just the previous speaker here talked about the law, but we need regulation to implement the law. Strong enforcement, clear accountability, adequate funding, skilled personnel, and the multi-agency coordination. Fire is not only a function of the fire service alone, but it's a coordination of several individuals, several institutions working together. Institutional resilience is important because it improves preparedness, it enhances coordination, it strengthens response capacity, and reduces disaster loss. Next slide, please. The importance of preparedness. One is preparedness saves lives, and preparedness transforms panic into coordinated action. So, as a nation, as a state, we need to conduct fire drills, it's important. We need to train staff, like all staff we have, we need to train them. We need to test the emergency system. We need to know if the emergency system works. We need to update the response plan, and we need to review lessons from the incidents. Can we go to the next slide, please? You cannot do fire management alone. It's a coordinated private-public collaboration. It's a function of the different individuals coming together. So private sectors, building contractors, building owners, facility managers, professional association, communities, government agencies, and emergency responders. All we need to work together for us to build resilience to fire damages. Can you go to the next slide? Nowadays we are moving from response to prevention. As I indicated, response is very expensive, prevention is cheaper. So as we are moving, the future fire safety is prevention, preparedness, and the risk reduction. So we prevent first, we prepare, we reduce risk, and we build the resilience. If we do that, the most successful fire response is preventing the fire from occurring in the first place. A prevention fire mindset today create a safer and a more resilient tomorrow. Can you go to the next slide? I have two last slides. So the key messages are, number one, most fire disasters are preventable. We can prevent fire. Hazard identification is the foundation of resilience. If we know where the fire is coming from, we can build resilience. Risk assessment guides smarter investment. Effective control significantly reduce losses. Preparedness saves life. Technology enhances prevention. And strong institution and partnership are critical. Prevention is always cheaper than recovery. Lastly is to say that as our urban areas are increasing, as urban areas and business hubs continue to grow, the question is not whether risk exists. The question is whether we are identifying the risk early and understanding them correctly and acting decisively to manage them. Building resilience is a continuous commitment to prevention, preparedness, and partnership. Together, we can move from reactive to disaster to preventing them. Thank you so much.
Mr. Francis Samuel, you are a toast for moderators like me. You even finished before time. A round of applause for him, please. Okay, I've been directed by Mr. Amodu that I should take questions. Please, in case you have questions, can we get one of the microphones? Please, just help me take it. We want to take questions. We'll just take 3 questions, right? 3 questions. Please, in case you've not been given food, maybe it's because you don't have a meal ticket. If you have your international passport, we can take that instead of the meal ticket. If you have a driver's license, if you can have 2 referees from government over level 15, we can take that too. And if you have a C of O of a landed property, we can take that instead of a meal ticket. 3 questions, please. Do you have people that want to ask questions, or we just leave it till tomorrow? Contributions. I would like to invite, okay, that is one of our former bosses, Director of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Services, Prince Julius.
The Honorable Commissioner, sir, distinguished participants, my contribution is for the firefighters. When Engineer Jimadi was making his submission, he talked much about lithium battery explosion. And I just spoke with him now. I want you to listen very well because it's for you. You see, theoretically, when you talk about firefighting, theory takes about 30%. Is that not correct? Practical aspect takes about 70%. So when you get to scene of emergency, most of the things you are teaching here may not work. That is one. All these suppression items you are talking about can break down mechanically. So they are not dependable as final something. But most of the fire will depend on firefighters. They are coming back to lithium battery. Lithium battery, when you see a fire involve lithium battery, what you should go, lithium battery has been around even by 70s. It's just introduced to Nigeria recently. When there's a fire that involves lithium battery, you can use your ABC dry powder first. Then what you use next is water. In fire operation, in fire management, water is the best ammunition all over the world, true or false. So what you need to apply copiously, I use the word copiously, apply your water copiously to douse the fire. What it does is to limit and to reduce the heat generated from that thermal battery. Is that clear? So when you see any thermal battery fire, don't be afraid. What you need to do, apply your copious water accordingly. Thank you very much. That's my solution.
Thank you, Prince Julius Adevemi. one of our former directors back like I think 14 years ago or 13 years ago. 4 directors now removed. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. It's a privilege to learn from you any day. We'll take 1 or 2 more contributions. Please, we keep it short, just 1 or 2 minutes. Do we have anybody that wants to contribute? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, by the power vested in me, by the Commissioner, the Permanent Secretary, and the CG of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, I would like to let us know that this conference continues tomorrow by 9. Please, let's make ourselves available because tomorrow we'll not be taking registration. And on this note also, I would like to appreciate all the people that have directly and indirectly played a part in the success of this excellence that we call the Lagos State International Fire Conference. My name is Babatunde Omishove. I'm the head of the Public Affairs Unit of the Ministry of Establishment and Training. And I want to appreciate Mr. Modu, Mrs. Mariah Fadaivo, and Ms. Ayegbuse for this opportunity or privilege. And on this note, we've come to the end of today's event. I'll just call the band to take this thing many notches higher. Thank you for coming. Event resumes tomorrow by 9 in the morning. Thank you.
We have seen rehabilitation